Ethiopia's national interest, Jawar versus Getachew on Sudan, sovereignty and Epstein Island like secretive resorts. Today we dive into one of the most contentious debates shaping Ethiopia's political and strategic landscape. Two prominent figures, Jawar Mohammed and Getachew Reda, clash over what constitutes Ethiopia's national interest in a rapidly changing Horn of Africa. On one side, Jawar warns that secretive alliances, particularly alleged cooperation with the United Arab Emirates in Sudan's conflict, could compromise Ethiopia's sovereignty, entangle the country in regional rivalries, and threaten critical assets like the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. On the other, Getachew Reda, a former TPLF leader and Pretoria Agreement signatory, criticizes Jawar for conflating personal opposition to the prime minister with a substantive critique of Ethiopia's long-term strategic interests, emphasizing the need to consider the broader geopolitical context. Which perspective truly protects the interests of the Ethiopian people, and what is really happening at Abiy Ahmed's highly guarded resorts? Rumored to host influential foreign visitors under strict restrictions? Stay tuned as we unpack the evidence, allegations, and stakes involved. Getachew Reda, a former TPLF rebel figure, signatory to the Pretoria Agreement, and now an ally of Abiy, Ahmed criticized Jawar Mohammed over his claims that Ethiopia's diplomacy has failed and that the prime minister's Sudan and Horn of Africa policies undermine national interests. Getachew argued that Jawar habitually conflates his personal opposition to the prime minister with a substantive assessment of Ethiopia's long-term strategic interests. According to him, political disagreement with the ruling party does not eliminate the responsibility to distinguish between partisan politics and enduring state interests. He contended that although some of the information Jawar circulates may be factually correct in isolation, it is presented without reference to the broader strategic framework shaping Ethiopia's decisions. In his view, facts removed from geopolitical structure and strategic context can be assembled into a distorted narrative. Getachew further questioned whether Ethiopia should remain passive in a region marked by intense geopolitical rivalry, while acknowledging that Sudan's tragedy has been worsened by foreign interference. He maintained that Ethiopia is not unique in pursuing its interests and arguably has more at stake than most regional actors. He emphasized that countries such as Egypt are not neutral observers but active participants shaping the conflict's direction. He accused Jawar of displaying discomfort with the language of national security and strategic interest, suggesting that such discomfort is dangerous in a region characterized by proxy competition, cross-border security threats, and zero-sum geopolitical maneuvering. In this environment, he argued, moral positioning cannot substitute for strategy. While affirming that policy critique is legitimate, Getachew warned against portraying every government action as strategic failure simply because it originates from Abiy's administration. He also cautioned that political actors with aspirations for higher office should avoid adopting rhetoric that undermines the state itself, noting that governments are temporary, but geography and long-term national interests endure. In his assessment, Jawar has failed to separate opposition to a ruling party from the defense of the Ethiopian state. Jawar responded in Amharic. The reason for choosing that language remains a matter of interpretation. Some speculate it was intended to directly address a domestic audience. Others suggest it was to counter narratives emerging within prosperity party circles. Ultimately, only Jawar knows his motivation. Jawar Mohammed maintains that close alignment with an external power risks eroding Ethiopia's sovereignty and entangling the country in regional rivalries, potentially reducing it to a proxy battleground. In his view, such involvement could also indirectly enhance Egypt's strategic leverage, particularly in relation to Nile geopolitics. He further raises concerns about the security of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, arguing that instability near such a critical national asset could reinforce claims that Ethiopia is unable to guarantee its protection. That, in turn, could weaken Ethiopia's sovereign control over a project widely regarded as central to its long-term development and national resilience. For Jawar, his criticism is not an assault on Ethiopia's national interest, but an attempt to safeguard it. He frames the defense of sovereignty, the protection of strategic assets, and the prevention of further destabilization as the authentic expression of national interest. Jawar delivered his response in Amharic. The choice of language has prompted varying interpretations. Some suggest he aimed to directly engage a domestic audience. Others believe it was intended to counter narratives circulating within Prosperity Party circles. His precise reasoning, however, remains known only to him. In substance, he reframed the debate by asking who is truly undermining Ethiopia's national interest. He argued that condemning Abiy, Ahmed's alleged support, reportedly, in coordination with the United Arab Emirates for Sudan's rapid support forces does not damage Ethiopia's national interest but rather seeks to defend it. According to Jawar, regime loyalists portray such criticism as harmful. Yet the prior question must be clarified. What constitutes national interest? He defines national interest as the protection of state continuity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity, the foundational pillars of statehood. Only after securing these essentials, he argues, can a country effectively pursue secondary objectives such as economic growth, diplomatic influence, and international reputation. From that framework, he poses a central question. Does Ethiopia's reported alignment with the UAE and involvement in Sudan's war reinforce those foundational pillars, or does it weaken them? His conclusion is that it weakens them, and he advances four principal arguments. First, he contends that deep strategic alignment with the UAE risks compromising Ethiopia's independent decision-making when foreign policy becomes closely tied to the agenda of an external actor whose priorities may diverge from Ethiopia's own. Sovereignty is diminished. Additionally, given regional geopolitical rivalries involving the UAE, Ethiopia could become entangled in broader proxy dynamics, rival powers seeking to counter Emirati influence might exploit Ethiopia's internal fractures, increasing the risk of destabilization. Second, he argues that engagement in Sudan's conflict expands Ethiopia's circle of adversaries. This environment, he suggests, indirectly strengthens Egypt's capacity to challenge Ethiopia, especially concerning Nile politics. Diplomatic isolation or military overstretch could enhance Egypt's leverage regionally and internationally, thereby weakening Ethiopia's strategic position. Third, he emphasizes the vulnerability of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. The dam's security depends on a stable regional environment, free from escalating military confrontation. If armed actors operate near such infrastructure, the danger extends beyond physical damage. It may also validate long-standing arguments that Ethiopia cannot independently guarantee the dam's safety, potentially intensifying calls for joint or international oversight. Fourth, he highlights the international accusations of grave human rights violations against the rapid support forces. If Ethiopia is perceived as aligned with such actors, Jawar argues, the country risks deepening diplomatic isolation and reputational damage. Given Ethiopia's already strained diplomatic standing in recent years, further erosion of credibility could impair its capacity to defend its core interests globally. He reiterates that criticism of these policies is not intended to weaken Ethiopia, but to clarify that intervention in Sudan reflects the decisions of a particular political leadership rather than the will of the Ethiopian people as a whole. Drawing that distinction, he argues, may mitigate retaliatory, diplomatic, or strategic consequences directed at the Ethiopian state. Moreover, he presents his critique as an effort to illuminate broader patterns of external influence in the region and to alert the international community to the potential risks such entanglements pose to Ethiopia's sovereignty, stability, and long-term development. In conclusion, Jawar frames the exposure and condemnation of what he characterizes as a destabilizing alliance not as hostility toward Ethiopia's national interest, but as its defense, protecting state continuity, safeguarding sovereignty, preventing further destabilization, and securing strategic assets such as the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam are, in his formulation, the true embodiments of Ethiopia's national interest. In a related comment, Jawar raises the following concerns and calls for further scrutiny. What exactly is happening at Abiy's highly secretive resorts, which are reportedly guarded by elite troops and require authorization from the Prime Minister's office for booking? Among these, Halala, Kella, and other palace standard properties stand out for? Their high level of security and exclusivity. Reports indicate that these resorts are guarded by elite troops and can only be booked with direct authorization from the Prime Minister's office. For years, Jawar has questioned why significant state resources continue to be directed toward luxury resort developments while Ethiopia faces pressing economic and social challenges. Even after completion, these resorts are said to have struggled to attract enough tourists to sustain operational costs, raising doubts about their intended economic purpose. The fact that access is so tightly controlled, reportedly requiring prime ministerial approval, adds another layer of intrigue and speculation regarding their use and function. The mystery surrounding these resorts is heightened when viewed in the context of the so-called Epstein files. Reports suggest that some foreign visitors, particularly influential individuals from the United Arab Emirates, were frequent guests at these locations. Among them, DP World CEO Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, who has reportedly faced scrutiny related to the Epstein scandal, is said to have made repeated visits to Ethiopia and stayed at these resorts. During such stays, no other guests, including Ethiopian ministers or officials, were allegedly permitted on the premises. The combination of extreme exclusivity, high-profile foreign visits, and limited transparency has prompted calls for thorough investigation and independent journalistic verification to determine what activities may have taken place at these remote and tightly controlled locations. These resorts are formally managed under Ethiopian Skylight Hotel, part of the Ethiopian Airlines Group, EAG, which itself operates within the portfolio of Ethiopian Investment Holdings, EIH. EIH is a state-owned sovereign wealth and strategic investment entity created to manage, grow, and optimize key public assets across multiple sectors, including aviation, hospitality, and logistics. According to EIH's official information, the board of directors is chaired by the Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, making Abiy Ahmed the statutory chair responsible for strategic oversight. This corporate structure effectively places Halala, Kella, and similar luxury resorts within a government-controlled network, blending public resources, political authority, and hospitality under direct prime ministerial supervision. Critics argue that this arrangement blurs the line between state, enterprise management, and personal influence, particularly when access to these properties is tightly restricted and their use remains opaque. Viewed alongside rumors tied to the Epstein files, these dynamics become even more concerning. The convergence of state ownership through EIH, prime ministerial authority, restricted access, and visits by elite international figures invites questions about the resort's true purpose and potential geopolitical or personal motives. Some observers suggest that such arrangements could expose Ethiopia to reputational risk or raise concerns about accountability, while others call for transparency to ensure that national resources are used in the public interest rather than for private or politically strategic purposes. Jawar's position is clear. These matters warrant careful and independent investigation. While reports, rumors, and speculation do not constitute proof, the unusual combination of secrecy, exclusivity, and high-profile foreign presence underscores the need for factual clarity. Independent journalists and investigators are urged to examine these resorts, their governance, their guests, and the decision-making processes that determine who may enter and for what purpose. Jawar frames this inquiry not as an attack on Ethiopia's national interest, but as an effort to defend it, advocating for transparency, accountability, and the responsible stewardship of state assets in the service of the Ethiopian people. Apart from the debate, within the framework of the Constitution of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the term national interest is explicitly addressed in Article 86, which governs the country's foreign relations. The provision requires that Ethiopia's external policy be guided by the protection of national interests, alongside respect for sovereignty, non-interference, peaceful dispute resolution, and adherence to international law. This constitutional placement is significant in the ongoing debate between Jawar Mohammed and Getachew Reda, as it shows that national interest is formally articulated in the external affairs context, rather than as a broad or undefined doctrine. that can be invoked for domestic political consolidation. From Jawar's constitutionalist perspective, any reference to national interest in internal matters must be interpreted in harmony with Articles 8 and 39, which vest sovereignty in the nations, nationalities, and peoples and guarantee the right to self-determination. For Jawar, this approach emphasizes that Ethiopia's national interest is inseparable from protecting the rights of its constituent peoples and upholding federal principles. On the other hand, Getachew's argument frames national interest primarily in terms of state stability, unity, and institutional continuity, often prioritizing central governance and strategic decision-making. However, a strict reading of the Constitution anchors national interest in Article 86, meaning it does not grant open-ended domestic override power. Instead, its interpretation must be reconciled with federalism, popular sovereignty, and the rule of law. This debate raises a deeper question. Who is genuinely defending Ethiopia's national interest? Is it the voice urging caution against foreign entanglements and emphasizing constitutional limits, or the perspective stressing strategic engagement and national security in a complex regional arena? Beyond political rivalry, issues of sovereignty, security, and strategic assets remain critical to Ethiopia's long-term future. Calls for independent investigations into Abiy Ahmed's resorts and foreign dealings highlight the broader importance of transparency, accountability, and responsible statecraft. Ultimately, determining who acts in the best interest of Ethiopia's people requires careful evaluation of constitutional principles, national security, and the rights of Ethiopia's diverse populations. Beyond politics, issues of sovereignty, security, and strategic assets remain central to Ethiopia's future. The calls for independent investigation into Abiy Ahmed's resorts and foreign dealings underscore the importance of transparency and accountability. What do you think? Who is acting in the best interest of Ethiopia's people? Jawar or Getachew? Comment below, subscribe for more in-depth analysis, and stay informed on the forces shaping the Horn of Africa today.